Okay, now we should be live if we've done everything correctly. So I guess we will find out. Um, hey everybody, this is a resurrection of a podcast that me and Pat did it for what, 2 shows, and I used to do it
No, there
years
were more
ago.
than
Was it that? Yeah, we did it.
yeah,
I
there
did it
were.
for a few years from the Ghost Hunter store because I remember it used to be live from the Ghost Hunter store, Paranormal Straight Talk, and we did all thunderclaps and all kinds of crazy stuff. But we don't have an intro video yet. Um, Let me see. I want to make sure I have all my stuff popped up here. Today we have an interesting guest. And we're going to try to have interesting guests every week. But and try to spread out a variety of people, I think. I know we don't want to stick just to one person, or one type of, investigator, psychics. Um, I think we want to go down to other paranormal things too, not just stick into the ghost part of it, the ghosts and hauntings, because that's kind of what we already do. So I don't know, doing like Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff like that. That would be interesting. I just want to learn stuff. It's an opportunity to talk to people and pick their brain about stuff. So it'll be fun. All right. So our guest this week
Can I
is
introduce myself, sir, before you
ah.
start that?
I
You
thought
didn't.
your name's right on there, but I
Yes,
guess
it
go
is.
ahead. Go ahead.
So, hi,
All right.
everybody.
All right.
If you feel you must. So, hi, everybody. My name is Pat Kibby. I'm part of Dave's team. I'm co-director with him on South Jersey Ghost Research, our paranormal team. I also had my own podcast for a long time, a couple of years, called I was going to say me Famously Haunted, and I've been working with the paranormal at different capacities since 2010. So I'm still here, still learning, still interested, and I look forward to learning along with Dave and everybody else what our guests have to tell us. You know, you can't learn everything on your own. I've read enough books, and I still don't know anything. So I look forward to hearing what our guests have to say.
All right. We're gonna bring our guest in, Lauren Hellekson. Um, there's so many things you can use to describe her. We'll go with the equipment developer first, and we'll just start from there.
I was like,
I
that
mean,
could
they're
have
not.
gone in so many directions.
I was just going to clarify that. Nothing bad. There's
Loud.
just so many titles we can put in there. But hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Hey, Lauren. Good.
Good.
Pat, I like your background.
Thank you. Yeah, we're at White Hill enough. The least I could do is show it as my background.
Yeah.
It's a great place to investigate and good people, and
I'm excited to get back there.
yeah, good for experiments too, since we're talking about, learning and what is there and how to read the equipment and all different sorts of paranormal. This is a great place for that. That's for sure.
Well, Lauren will be able to stay that night after the expo to do some investigating. So maybe we can do some live feeds out there and try some of the new equipment out.
Cool.
That would
Yeah.
be cool.
Like your new
There's
piece that
always
I'm going to
something
bring
happening
you.
there. That's right.
Hopefully, I
Now,
have another one by then too.
that would be great. I love new stuff. Keep going. Just keep going with stuff.
I know. That's
Right.
that's why I honestly I was building so much of the same stuff, selling it, that I was not able to create. So I got a day job so that I didn't have to pay my bills with building equipment, so that I could just start making new stuff again. And now it's just it's going to be great. I'm really excited.
Maybe you can get like a manufacturer, so you can create and then sell the plans to a manufacturer who can then build it for you.
So that was my decision when I was going to get a job. It was either to hire people or go back to work. And I think I'm too type A to let anybody else build my stuff.
I can't blame you.
Some of your stuff needs that hands-on.
And that's another thing too, is that I think now at this point, some of this stuff, it's like, I think a lot of people buy it because of how I make it. And I'm a control freak. Okay. I just want to make it all myself.
Well, the crystal pods, like for example, there's no
Yeah.
crystal pod that is the same as any other one. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have it, you have a unique item that no one else can. You have something like it, but they don't have yours. And
Yeah.
that's what makes it really cool, because does the different crystals, or does the way that the crystals were put on yours, does that affect someone else? I mean, there's so many different roads you can go down with that.
Mm-hmm. Not just that, the process in which like I purchase them, the way I prep them, the way I put them on. I've done videos of like how I put, but it's also not even just that. There is a lot of intention, even in things that don't have crystals, like even down to how I did the marbling on this glass, and even how I do marbling, or like you can do, I'm going to say this, and then people that are like afraid of witchcraft, they're going to be like, I'm never buying anything again. But everything's very intentional. You do something in a certain direction and it elicits this. You make sure you're placing things in different ways. So there's a lot of intention, and there's a reason why I use wood. And there's a lot of just very like personal aspects that go into the equipment. And I think I always want to keep them special over like getting rich from them, I guess,
Right.
if that makes sense.
No, that's good to know. I mean, it's good to know that
Yeah.
you do that for, there's like some Wiccan ritual stuff in there, and then I'm sure there's other different sectors of I'm trying to think, like not religion, but
I mean, I don't even really practice anything that would be inherently Wiccan either, too. I think a lot of it's just very like energetically intentional. I'm like a amalgamation of so many things, chaos witch.
good description.
There you go. There's going to be a shirt right there.
All the things. I'm all the things within reason. Aw, Thomas Patrick Gormley is commenting on the Facebook. I have the Facebook comments up right now. I don't know if you guys.
No, I have to.
Aw,
I had them hidden. I had them hidden. Now I can see them all. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying you had Tom hidden. I'm just gonna go through people's stuff.
I had, because I want to make sure that I had one question. That's all I wrote down, but I wanted to make sure I said it right. The motto, which I love and I repeat now, that how do you know if it works if you don't know how it works? How did that come about? Because that's good. That's gonna be chiseled.
You're like, I have one question, and this is it.
This is it. How'd you come up with that, and what we were referring to?
The funny thing is I came up with that phrase during like a rant where I was yelling, which, as one does when they're talking about things, if you're me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to somebody, thank you, my dear. I was talking to somebody about how people use equipment in the paranormal, and how like what is the right way to use something or the wrong way to use something. And it was down to talking about something that's like as simple as a REM pod, and sort of like and this is not, when I talk about any sort of like lack of comprehension or any kind of like lack of education in the paranormal, I'm not calling anybody stupid. I'm not being elitist about the things that I've either like researched or studied or learned. I'm not at all, because I don't think that equipment is transparent enough. I don't think that there is a standard in how we use equipment. I don't think that we are getting enough information about the equipment that we're purchasing. And, you'll see like manuals, like Dave, you and I have talked about this plenty of times, like manuals and like how something works and what it's working with is so important to knowing whether or not it's actually working in the field. And at that point, I was just yelling, and I was like, how do you know that it's even working if like you don't know how it works in the first place? And I was like, hey, yeah. And
What says it
I'm like,
all
I
right
gotta
there.
write
I
that
mean,
down.
that's like, that is just such a great quote there. I love it.
And it's just like, this piece of equipment is going off, and one of the first questions I'll ask an investigator is like, oh, like, how does that work? And it'll kind of be one of those like stumbling through like, oh, it is an advanced algorithm that decides this or that or the other thing. And I was like, okay, what's the algorithm? Oh, well, I don't know. And it's never like, oh, I don't know, I don't care. No, it's literally like, actually, you know what? I don't know. What is it? And that's all I want. I just want people to be like, wait a minute, do I know how this is working? Like, or am I just sort of creating this almost like confirmation bias of, well, it's making noise and lights are going off, and I like that, and it makes me feel like I'm doing something. So I'm just going to go with that. And that's not working.
Right. I agree with that completely, because I was at an investigation and like I don't know a lot about a lot of the newer equipment. Like I had old equipment, I didn't buy new equipment. Now I lost all my equipment. So here I come back to the market.
Yeah, you don't even need equipment.
Hey, your next customer just arrived. But we were in a location and we were doing an investigation for a private client, and a dead man's bell went off. And I'm looking around and I'm like, where's the dead man?
Oh, the dead bell? The ding?
Yeah.
The dead bell, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like out of nowhere, I'm hearing this bell. I know what it is because I've seen them, out investigating with the public and that kind of thing with haunted explorations. But I couldn't figure out like whose it was, where it was. I was like asking everybody. Nobody's answering me. And once I found it, I'm like, I still don't know how it works. So like, does it matter? It's going off. Like, and then I found out it goes off on its own periodically. I think it's supposed to do that. But here I was like, ooh, is there a ghost?
I didn't know that part.
No, I don't think it's supposed to go off periodically. It's the sensitivity has to really be played with wherever location, even in the same room. You move it across the room, you're going to have to start from just clicking it on and not dialing it up at all, and playing around with it to see where you're getting hits. So know, okay, that's natural. Dial it back. I think a lot of people just go put it somewhere, click it on, and yes, it's going to ring the whole night because you've made it too sensitive.
But I'm one of those people, I just didn't know. And you can look it up online, I'm sure, but I was in the middle of an investigation, not ready to like whip out my computer and do some work. So, at that time I didn't do it. But, to your point, if it came with instructions that said what it does, how it does it, and if you see this is how you can interpret that. That would be amazing. Like if all equipment came with that, could you imagine? Like that would be educational, so
could you imagine? I wish there was an equipment developer that wrote manuals for every single one of her beautiful Victorian inspired wooden pieces of equipment that she has.
Just like Lauren.
Wait, there is one.
Bravo.
It's about time.
The future is here.
The other I was just talking to some friends, and they were asking me about some of the equipment and what I thought about it, and they asked me about one piece, and the other one was like, she doesn't like it if she didn't build it, and I was like, no.
Well, maybe
that's like 40% true, but I do use there is pieces of equipment that I do like, but I will say I do have like a small critique of every piece of equipment, even my own, which I think that there should always be a critique for every piece of equipment, because that's how we can make things better. Always.
Right. Sure.
Right.
Like I do think the dead bell is beautiful and like aesthetically, I mean, people probably are
Absolutely.
like, did Lauren Hantz build that? Goodness gracious. Because it's like so my aesthetic. I love it. I do wish that either the sensitivity was a set standard or that there was actually like numbers on the dial, because if you're doing data collection, there's no way for you to sort of document what type of sensitivity. So you can't really use that necessarily as like a piece of sort of like data collection, I guess, because there's no way to state like, okay, the dead bell was set to sensitivity 4.
Right.
And that's kind of
Now
what we
you
were
got
talking
everybody
about
with
Pat earlier, about taking that data, the data points, and how you make them meaningful with the different
right.
pieces of equipment.
Yeah, and like it's like checks and balances. So and it's funny too, because I mean, I know that a lot of the stuff that I build seems simple, or maybe you might like feel that it's like, like a generic pod or something like that. But it's so important to note that even though we have these more like generic pieces out there, it's not, fancier isn't better. It's not always better. It's just more entertaining if it's fancier. And
More
when we get
expensive too.
more expensive and just like fancy, and I get that we all sort of want that like serotonin boost of like, oh, look at all the lights and the sounds and all these things, and it really makes me feel like I'm a ghost hunter. But sometimes it's just about getting very simple data, because the simpler the data, the more compelling your results can be, because you don't have to sort through a whole bunch of like, it's kind of like just like, I'm trying to be sensitive because I don't think that you don't have to sort through so much like entertainment factor.
Right. Well, you don't know. I mean, as an investigator, where we go out and, go to private homes where people are having issues and they're asking us to help them, and we bring our equipment in, we want to make sure that it means something. Even if I don't know exactly what it means something, So
Pat, you need to know exactly what it means.
well, I should, but saying like even a simple EMF meter,
Yeah.
it detects EMF. That's what it means. Like, it doesn't mean there's a ghost in the house. It doesn't mean necessarily anything like that. It detects EMF. So
Yeah.
I understand what that means, but it's not a ghost detector, know. But then I know, okay, let's look for EMF leaks in the wiring, and, start walking around and checking all the wires. And usually we'll find something that's leaking EMF, and sometimes it makes the house so hot that it drowns out everything. And that can affect people and how they physically feel and mentally feel, and get confused if it's too high or sensitive.
Remember that one house we had where the kid's bed was right below where the hot spot was, and
right.
It was that one of the meters maxes out at 2,000 milligauss. It flatlined. It was over 2,000 milligauss, 3 feet from where the kid was laying below. So no wonder he was hearing and seeing things when he was in his bed. It was
like
crazy.
Hallucinating.
And also too, how people can buy, and this always makes me laugh when people buy, I'm sorry, because I have to be careful, because I know, I mean, no, I'm not going to be careful. I'm the guest.
No, you don't.
This is paranormal straight talk. You can be wild and crazy.
That's right.
EM pumps are like one of the biggest scams. I'm sorry. EM pumps are so silly. And when you walk into a house, typically, especially a house that maybe doesn't have a lot of airflow or anything like that, there are EM pumps everywhere, because the EM pump inside of an electromagnetic pump is just like something that's spinning, that's just oscillating like a battery. That's a box fan. That's a standing oscillating fan. That's anything that has a fan in it is literally pumping electromagnetic energy, unless it's encased in metal, into the entire space. So I always think it's so funny when people purchase like an EM pump, and I'm like, you should have just gotten a box fan. I'm pretty sure it gives off more. And
I
you and
like
it'll
that.
cool you down. It'll cool you down too. Woo! Bonus.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
that's
had
why
some.
when we're going through the house initially, we're looking for those hot spots, or you should be looking for the hot spots with your EMF meter, and that's what you're finding. You're finding the mini pumps basically. You're finding which areas or which items in the house are already
Yeah,
giving off that EMF, and that's something we would log in anyway. But understanding
dude.
what you just said makes a huge difference with it too.
Right.
Early
It's all, again,
2000s alarm
understanding.
clocks too.
Alarm
Early
clocks are a big one.
2000s and late 90s alarm clocks, like the LCD screen, like the light up alarm clocks. Crazy.
Fish
Start the
tanks,
end pump business idea.
the
Fish. Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my
Fish.
God.
the air pumps, yeah, and
Oh
all
my
the stuff.
God.
The fish
EM
tanks are
pump. There it
insane.
is. Yep.
Yep.
EM pump. Boom.
You'll detect that through a wall. That's how strong that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
That's all
100%.
little things
It's
people
crazy.
don't think about. Because I think a lot of people don't go through with like walk through a place and do the readings, the initial readings, temperature, EMF, all that stuff. Because what do you if you don't have the basics, what are you comparing it to?
And a big thing of that too is like a lot of these terms in the paranormal are they're buzz phrases. And I don't think a lot of people will drill down to really understand like what is the electromagnetic spectrum? What is on the electromagnetic spectrum? And you can get deeper with that because you think of the of EMF as just this one singular thing. But like electromagnetic fields or electromagnetic radiation is everything from like radio waves to visible light to sound waves. No, sorry, not sound waves. That was the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. Sound waves are not on the electromagnetic spectrum. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm gonna go.
I'm not grading you tonight.
Um, did you hear what Lauren said? What an idiot.
We're just gonna clip that and put it all over Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Just a piece.
sound waves. No, but you have like people don't think that radio waves and like visible light are the same thing. And it's the same frequency, it's the same energetic spectrum, visible light, rainbows, infrared radiation, the heat that we give off, the infrared radiation that we give off on the same spectrum of energy as a radio wave. And there's this sort of like common misconception about that EMF is just this one singular thing. Oh, we're looking for EMF. Well, what kind of EMF? Oh, this goes off with EMF. Well, what kind of EMF? And I used to have this game. Actually, I had it at the last White Hill Paracon. Was I would play this game and I would say, let's put these things in different categories based on the energy that it uses in paranormal investigating. So I would have I'd have a flashlight, I'd have a still camera, I'd have a video camera, I would have a REM pod, I would have all of these different things. And like 90% of the stuff that I had all worked on the electromagnetic spectrum. So I only had like 2 different categories of stuff like in this game. And it was like 9 or 10 pieces. And no matter what, every single event, I always ended up with like 5 or 6 different categories. And I would say, okay, so it looks like we've sort of put all these things in 5 or 6 different categories. What if I told you there were only 2 categories up here? And people would just be like, what? And it's like, this, uses a form of EMF. This uses a form of EMF. This uses a form of EMF. I use a form of EMF. Or even down to something like all of the different motion sensors all use completely different types of triggers to work. Like they don't all work the same. They have different false positives. They have different needs when it comes to a trigger. A microwave motion sensor can be triggered if a chair moves, but a passive infrared sensor isn't going to trigger if a chair moves. So there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to how the equipment works beyond the buzzwords.
Mhm.
And that's not saying that, oh, people in the paranormal world, that's not at all what I'm saying. It's that it's not normalized to ask these questions because we feel stupid if we ask the questions. We're made to feel stupid if we ask the questions. We Like, we want to be smarter than the next guy. We want to be the one with the cool tagline. Sorry, bitch, you can't, because it's me. You know what I mean? But like, we don't want other people to think that we don't know what we're talking about. So like, we don't ask the questions. And I want to normalize it being okay that we don't know everything. And Pat, that's why I like that you were like, I don't know everything. Sometimes people will be like, Lauren's a fucking nerd. I don't know everything. I accidentally just said sound waves were on the electromagnetic spectrum. They're not. You know what I mean? Who just put an angry emoji on this live? I'm going to find you. Who did it?
Only
Who
smiles
did it?
loud. Right?
It's because they heard you said sound waves were on the electromagnetic
Sound waves,
spectrum.
they were like, dumbass.
That's right. That's what it was for right there.
Sorry. Sound waves are not the radio waves in which they travel are on the electromagnetic spectrum, if they're on the radio. But I digress.
So how do you know all this stuff, Lauren? Like, where did you learn all this information and learn to apply it?
I hyperfixate and I have ADHD. You know what? I'm going to talk about myself as a young person in a way where I'm completely removed so that I don't sound like I'm boasting, because I almost flunked out of high school, and I did flunk out of college my first round, but I was a very intelligent and well-read and gifted child that just wasn't nurtured enough in the ways that I was able to focus. And not just that too, but like mental health and ADHD and all of those things were so stigmatized. And I was the daughter of a teacher. So it kind of was like, my sister was an athlete. So like, it was okay that she was ADD and needed to be on medication, but like, no, Lauren was the artist and she reads and she does that. Like, she doesn't have trouble focusing. She's just being bad. And so it was just this, I was in a lot of the advanced classes. I was in gifted and talented classes, but I was so deeply bored with school. I was never able to focus. I was such a bad kid. I was always getting into trouble. But I was really, really smart. And I think that those two things were like, almost like fire and gasoline, because I ended up, being kind of like a leader in a social group. I was a bad kid and I was real fucking good at being bad, excuse my language, because I was smart and I could get my way out of stuff, and I could talk. I was such good friends with our school principal because I could talk myself out of everything. I got suspended in high school, and I was allowed to go around and get all my homework. I was allowed to get all my work. I didn't have to miss anything. They pushed it back so I could go to homecoming. Like, I could talk myself into anything. My mom thought it was hilarious that my first job in banking was because I overdrew my bank account and I talked my way out of all of the overdraft fees and into a job at the bank. And
that's a good one.
And I was in banking for 10 years. And so I've always been like, I loved puzzles and I love figuring out the questions that people are answering. And I always asked the questions that people, is that Ryan? I always, oh, you know what? Paranormal Theory too. I think they're near White Hill Mansion. We should definitely, if they don't already have a table. These are good kids. That was a random pitch. They're good kids. I was always asking, I got in trouble a lot for the questions that I would ask in school. So kind of transitioning that into my adulthood, I was very much a questioner. a questioner of authority and like the road less traveled, and just because I liked being argumentative. And I'm not even saying like, that's so cool. No, I deeply wanted to be a part of like the cool crowd, and like I deeply wanted to be liked. And that was kind of a big thing that you are a kid. I'm older than you, even if it's by a month, Ryan. Gosh, you're a child. Just kidding. It's more like 10 years, but still. And it came to, a point in my adulthood where I think I was in banking, and I was just like, I don't want to listen to people anymore. I'm just going to start figuring things out for myself. And I quit the bank to open up my first business, and the bank was like, we don't want you to go. Like, you're really great. They put me into this like failing branch, and I turned it around and like made, all great and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, so good. And I was like, I think I'm going to go. And they were like, no, we don't want you to. And they offered me this branch that was like a $1 million branch, and like I could make 6 figures. And I was like, I'm done listening to people. I'm like so done with people being my boss anymore. I got to go. And I started a business, and and that was another thing. I didn't know how to run a business. So I looked it up, and I researched, and I asked questions, and I asked other people, and I didn't care if people thought that I was stupid, because if you think I'm stupid, you're going to tell me so much more information without me having to ask, because you want to share your knowledge with me because it makes you feel good. And I'm like, yeah, give me all that knowledge. Okay. I'm so dumb. Tell me all the things. And so a lot of it, that just like ricocheted, where I'm just like, I can figure everything out that I want to figure out. And it stemmed into all of these things. And then it just like went crazy. And I was like, I have to know everything. Like I went to India to study yoga.
Cool.
I touched the Jesus stone in the church in the middle of Jerusalem. And like, I just was like, I gotta know, I gotta figure out all the things. I want to know all the things now, all the things. And I found out that when I started to learn about the things that I was really, really interested in, and that I was really, really passionate about, my brain became real sticky, and it would just like keep it, and it would make sense. And then I started to realize that I don't think my brain works how a lot of brains work, because I have to really be delicate with how I figure stuff out, and it has to like taste good to my brain.
Right.
Some people will get what I'm saying with that.
No, I get it, because my daughter is ADHD also. She's 31, coincidentally, as is the guy in Paranormal Theory. But
little babies.
Yeah, right. Little babies. But she thinks completely differently than I do, and her brain processes everything different. But she's got like a love of knowledge where she'll just sit there on her phone looking things up while I'm watching TV like a dumbass. She's doing something intelligent with her time and learning things. And then, I'm asking her a question, and she has the answer like at the snap of her fingers. And I'm like so impressed with that.
And I love that now it's considered like smart, because there was a long period of time that if you were like off looking for your own answers, it was like non-compliant. You don't, no respect for your teachers, no respect for this, no, you ask too many questions, you're not a cog in the machine. And now it's like, when somebody needs to figure something out, or I was definitely the person when I had my first apartment, like if somebody needed something built or fixed, and I'm still fixed. Somebody just messaged me just now and was like, I'm going to send you home with this piece of equipment. I want you to figure it out and fix it. The whole reason why the crystal pot is even a crystal pot is because Greg, he was on here for a second, Ficetic from Tracy Ghost Hunters, one of his proximity sensors broke, and he was like, yeah, this is broken. And I was like, can I take it apart? And he was like, I mean, I guess so. And I took it apart and I fixed it. And I was like, oh shit, I could build these. This is easy. And even from like my dad when I was really little, because I love how much of a weird kid I was. I was so weird. And not even like, oh, I put mayonnaise on my French fries. No, I like didn't want to play with toys. I wanted to do like long division on the kitchen wall because it was like wipe off tiles, and my dad would bring home old computers for me to take apart.
Nice.
You know how much
go.
more I could be if I was just like, I don't know, had
I
access
think about
to
that for
ADHD
myself
medicine.
too. It's so annoying now. If I knew then what I know now, I would be a completely different person.
Be crazy if I just knew how to manage my brain properly.
Right.
But so the computers were definitely like, it's all my dad's fault. That was the catalyst for it. He let me start taking things apart, and it just never ended.
Well, then what about the learning part? So I know, and you and Dave, I believe, are doing class together, I think.
Yeah, we are. Yes, at the Hillview Manor. And I say that like I'm not there every other weekend. In Newcastle, Pennsylvania. We're doing Beyond the Veil, Essentials of Paranormal Investigation, formerly Ghost Hunting 101. I made Dave change that, everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
I made him do it. Oh, you're welcome.
There's not many people he would do that for. I want you to know that.
I just don't
think you're
let
the
it
only
get
one.
I
Yeah,
don't let it get a word
it
in
for
edgewise.
me.
I don't know if you noticed. And also, me and his wife are like BFFs too. So it's like I have the whole team on my side. If he says no to me, I just go,
Michelle. Yeah, exactly.
So to avoid that, I just say yes. It's just easier that way.
Right.
It's going to be a yes eventually.
Just got to wear him down. Just got to wear him down.
Exactly.
It's
easier to say yes.
The learning was just, the paranormal is just another it was just another thing to take apart. And I'm just continuously taking it apart. Because it started with, I'm hunting ghosts that I believe are dead people. It is not that anymore.
So what is it now?
So, what do you know about neuroplasticity?
Nothing.
How much time do we have? We got a good amount of time. Wait, before we get into this, do you guys really want to know what I think the paranormal is right now? Or do we want to talk about equipment?
Keeping the foil on your head. I thought that was a good look. Yeah, I think that's a good look.
I always keep a tinfoil hat on my computer at all times, just in case I have to switch from talking about like science theory or physics to like paranormal theory or theoretical physics. I have to put the tinfoil hat on because I do think that the pseudoscience is way too melded, and we kind of throw out like sciencey words when we're talking about the paranormal, and the paranormal can't really be sciencey. You can do sciencey things with it, like while you're exploring it, like applying variables in your experiments, but it is not a science, and there's a magic and a mysticism in that we need to make sure that we remember. So that's why I put the tinfoil hat on when it's time to talk about the paranormal. Because also, do you want to know like where this came from, like the tinfoil hat thing?
Of course.
Fun fact.
We do.
Fun fact. So, you know what a Faraday cage is, where it protects something from electromagnetic waves or radio waves or anything like that. Like it protects something from electromagnetic waves or discharge or anything like that. So this is literally just taking the concept of a Faraday cage, which is not like a new concept, and applying it to the brain. That's why it's so like funny, because you have to be completely concealed in a Faraday cage for it to work. So the idea of like tinfoil hat is that sort of like half-baked theory that takes science and applies it to the supernatural, but just at like 5%, because I can say, oh, this tinfoil hat protects my brain from, you know, the waves that I want to protect it from. But Faraday cages, you have to be completely enclosed because the waves are right now going into my nostrils and going into my armpits and going into my face. So it's like a funny, I don't know. It's basically, I'm just making fun of us is what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's a reminder. To me, it looks like a reminder.
Yeah. Like sometimes we have to remember that we want to, there's a huge chunk of the community, and it's okay if it's not everybody, because I do think that it's very important that we have people that are entertainers, and we have people that are doing this for fun, and we have people that are just kind of like, you know, just doing what they feel with it. And then we do have, you know, the community of people that are sort of looking to further it as a field of study,
Right.
because that's boring. Like when I say that if you're getting even one piece of evidence at each location, that's not boring enough. It's got to be more boring if you want to do the science part.
Yeah.
It needs to be way more boring than that. Trust me.
No, I mean, I used to study. That's how I started my paranormal journey, was kind of like learning about the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even remember now. It's been so long. Like the school, like there's a school out there that does all sorts of investigation, but not paranormal investigation in the manner that we do, which is like go to somebody's house and, you know, see if we can make the equipment go off. This kind of thing is where they're in a room and the variable is the person walking in. So they do the same experiment like 50 times with different people. The only thing that's changing, excuse me, is it's a different person, to understand how the different people affect the environment just by being a different person there, you know? So that's where I drew the line.
Look at the Rhine Institute.
Huh?
The Rhine Institute.
Yes, I think it is. Yes, that's exactly who it was. And my teacher was Lloyd Auerbach. I remember that.
I have some of his books.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's very smart man. The other thing is they kind of like
I have some of his books.
Yeah. Cause like, I mean, I did a lot of reading on Hans Holzer stuff when I was, you know, starting out. I mean, I was like into learning and the theory and all that's because that's how I learned, you know. And now I don't look at any of it anymore, which is a shame. I have so many great books. Like I have a bookcase behind me full of great books, and I don't read them anymore.
No day like
it's easier
today,
just to play with toys when I go out.
And that's okay. But that's the thing, though. It's like, that's okay. There's this big stigma that, like, everybody has to be so serious. And who's going to be the most serious? And that's just boring, y'all. That's just boring. I will say, I do try to bring that aspect to the paranormal in, like, a fun way. I love that you were talking about variables like control independent and dependent variables in an experiment. I just did a live. I do a bi-weekly live on Facebook. I'll be doing one this Sunday. And I just did a live on variables of a successful experiment. And not too far before that, I did a live on applying the full scientific method to your experiments in the paranormal, which you cannot do that in one night, nor can you set up very successful experiments in one night. You can start like a testing phase of figuring it out, but I have an experiment installation at the Madison Seminary, and it is going to be roughly 2 years, but probably it's going to end up being longer than 2 years. And that is following like almost not even like loose-ish lead. No, it's pretty scientific method. I did follow the scientific method on it, but because I'm dealing with more like supernatural theories, obviously is why it's going to be so long, but it's scheduled to be there indefinitely, but the study itself is roughly 2 years, but it'll end up being longer than that. But I do a lot of educating around at least like bringing in a little bit of a more like concrete laid out way that we can conduct these techniques that are just a little bit more objective. And honestly, only if you want to. I don't want, there's so much freaking shame and like so much of this just like, ew, I can't stand this about the paranormal and I can't stand that and like nobody likes me because I tell it how it is and all of this just like, oh, boo hoo, nobody loves me just but that's because I'm so great and these people are stupid and I hate Sam and Colby and I hate these people and I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here? If you hate everything, it's not like what it used to be. All the new people suck. Why are you here if you cannot stand this community so much? And I get so bothered by that because there's so much of this like elitism. And it's like, I want people to be excited and I want people to have an open mind and I want people to believe in monsters or that their grandma is talking to them or that, anything that gets them interested. Because when I entered the paranormal, my opinions of what I thought was going on were so vastly different than what my opinions and beliefs are now. And that's because I got so interested in it that I wanted to take it apart and I wanted to learn so much more about it. And it has taken me down avenues that I never thought I would explore and has got me interested in things that I never thought that I would want to learn about. And like I'm going back to school in the fall and I never thought I would go back to college and I'm going back to school for electrical engineering and I'm like I'm so excited to go and I want to I I wanted to major in physics but I'm like slow down bitch. So I am going to so I'll be taking physics so that's fine. I could
I was going to say electrical engineering is not a low bar already.
Like slow down. Just become an engineer, okay? Calm down. And it's funny too because I just very recently met my biological family, and my little sister is an engineer, and she actually gave me a lot of advice on like what degree to pursue. And she was like, electrical engineering technology, that's going to be really great. She's like in the government and like works on I don't know like Air Force One and shit. I don't know. She's a badass, but yeah, so I think it was okay that I said that. yeah, we're fine. I don't know. She's
almost free talk. You could say whatever you want.
I didn't say her name, so it's fine. No, I don't know. Like I had to be like vetted by the government when she found out that she had a sister.
Wow.
But that's okay. I didn't say her name, so it doesn't matter. And my name's Lauren Huntz. But so it was really cool seeing that there were people like in my family that were pursuing similar things that I was, doing at almost 40. It was crazy. Right. Like when I was in high school, I tried to join the Army because I really wanted to be a helicopter mechanic, mostly because I wanted to take apart helicopters. And then I found out that my younger biological sibling worked on helicopters in the Army. Wow. And yeah. Wow. Sometimes paranormal stuff, you don't even have to look for ghosts to find like crazy shit. Like
it's all the nature nurture,
nature versus nurture is crazy. And I found that really interesting. And honestly, a lot of like the real world things that happen in like the concrete world further solidify the different avenues that I've taken in the paranormal as well too. And it's not even it's funny. It's not even ghost stories that keep me here. It's like the things that happen in our everyday lives make me more interested in supernatural theories. And I tell this story typically when I'm like speaking at events, when I start to sort of just like, I really, really love the human brain in terms of like a subject with how we recall information and how we interpret information and how our morality, our religious beliefs, our spiritual beliefs, all of these things really dictate how we interpret and see the paranormal, because it is a something that's beyond the scope of, you know, our reality. So there's so many different ways that we can interpreting it. You can have 5 psychics in a room and a ghost could walk in, and all 5 of those psychics are going to see something different.
Right.
Yes.
More
Yeah.
often than not, if they are
Mhm.
not talking to each other, because then confirmation bias comes into play and all of these different ideas. But the human brain, I find so much more supernatural than like any shadow person or demon or anything. Like our brains are fucking wild, y'all.
I know the fact it even works, right?
Dude.
It's like there's a whole lump of the cells and fluids and all glands and things, and you have to have everything perfect, you know, to get one that's high functioning, you know, or at least normal function. I won't say high. I was just thinking not low, you know, but it's crazy. It's crazy how that works.
But it's also that it's interesting that you say that though too, because like the scope that we deem a brain that is like sufficient is really only how that brain functions within society. And when we think of things like savant syndrome or people that are on the spectrum, we would think somebody with like autism and savant syndrome is not like normal brained. But savant syndrome is like, that's real superheroes. Like
Right.
that's, I can just look at somebody who's French and now I know French. I
Is
can
it
listen
crazy?
to
Like,
2 notes of a
yeah,
song and then I can play the entire thing on piano even though I've never played piano. That's crazy. So
it
like
is.
it's interesting how and again, that sort of plays into our sort of like societal makeup with how we interpret things, because one person can look at this person and be like, oh, they can't function within society, so they're, you know, less than, when really like we're never going to be able to probably touch the capacity in which they're accessing their brain, and they're maybe just overwhelmed by the crazy web that we've created called society that everybody is forced to live within. And so okay, I digress. There is this story. Stay with me. It's a very short story. I'm a vegan. It took a vegan 54 minutes to tell you they were a vegan, first of all. So, everybody, okay? Okay? 54 minutes. All right, that's a good amount of time. Usually it's like within the first 5 minutes. Okay. So, I obviously I'm a vegan. I don't eat, you know, anything from animals or anything like that. So doing something like hitting a deer with my car would be very devastating, because like to me it's, I see my brain computes, you know, animals in a different way than maybe somebody who's not vegan or something like that. So it's very difficult for me to get over things like that emotionally and spiritually even. And I hit a deer going down I'm just going to say Route 5, like you guys know what Route 5 is. So it's next to the Ravenna Arsenal in Ohio, which is this long stretch of road that's next to this military arsenal. So there's no lights, no nothing. It's always like pitch black out there. It's very eerie. If anybody reads like Odd Thomas books, it's very like when Odd Thomas like snuck into the old military base. It's like very reminiscent of that. That's what it reminds me of. Dean Koontz, anybody? All right. Anyways, so I hit this deer, and I was like all by myself on this highway, and I hit the deer. Thankfully, I have like an SOS button on my car. I hit the SOS button. I'm just like screaming, and they were like, "We're sending somebody to your location." And they sent somebody out, and the police officer walked up, and I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I hit. I don't know what I hit." He was like, "It's okay. It's okay. It was just a deer." And I was like, "Wah!" I just remember going,
a deer.
I know. I remember going, I was like, and he was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm a vegan." And it was like so funny. But so I'm so devastated. But I'm also laughing that I'm devastated because I'm like, I don't know, I was like a parody of myself. I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not like okay, I guess I am. I am a crazy person, so never mind. Anyway, so I couldn't remember with my brain hitting the deer though. And even to this day, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw. I was driving down the road. Our city's this way, but I have to drive by the Arsenal. The Arsenal's next to here, and there's like an old entrance to the Arsenal up on the left. And from the back left-hand side, a big, huge piece of sheet metal starts to roll like it's coming out of nowhere. I don't know. It was being like wafted by the wind. Rolls in front of my car. It has rust going on the bottom and then up the right side of it. And then it just whoosh, and then like flies over my car and then rolls to the other side of the road behind me. And that's all I can see with my brain. That's the only thing that I can see. I saw the dead deer because I had to drive by it every single day. It was a baby buck, little tiny horns. When I try to put that deer into my memory, he turns into a big deer with a big rack, and he just jumps on the hood of my car and then jumps into the woods. So I can't for the life of me at all access the memory with my brain. And that's when I started looking into neural plasticity of how we recall our memories, both memories from, long ago and memories of what I just said a split second ago. Because all of that is neuroplasticity. You either have the recall of the sentence that I just said, or you remember a childhood dream because you smelled something, kind of thing. And it's so interesting how the neural pathways form dependent, not just on what we experience in the moment, but very deeply dependent on like our beliefs, our morality, how we were raised, how we already see the world, how we want to see the world, the things that we like, what our favorite color is, what we deeply wish that we had. And all of those things put together, your brain has this ability beyond your control to decide that maybe something's too traumatic for you. And so it's just going to
Right.
boop, and it puts something else there in its place.
Yeah, it just distorts it.
Because the suppressed
if you're
memories,
experiencing something, like if you're at a location and just, for example, I know people have seen things,
weird.
They see things, and it, whether it's like reliving a murder or see something traumatic happen, what they describe as happening could not be anything close to what they're actually seeing. Because of that, their brain is not allowing them to process that. They're getting a whole different interpretation. It may be totally off base of what is really there because of that inability to translate that themselves. You know what I mean?
And it's like, no matter how long this whole like appeal to authority, when it comes to like the fallacies of the paranormal, the appeal to authority is the one that really is just like people that, and no offense, because we've all said it, people that lead with like, well, I've been doing this for 25 years. Well, I've been doing this for 32 years. Well, I've been doing this for doesn't matter because no matter what, us all being human beings on this plane of existence does not mean that just because you've been doing it long enough that you have any other access to the things that we're experiencing than anybody else. Because who knows if any of us have ever really fucking seen anything. And then I think about the time that I saw a shadow person at Waverly Hills, and I'm like, did I see a shadow person, or was my brain just like, seeing a shadow person is going to be way better for her than seeing whatever the fuck that just was? Or like when I was and then there's been times where there's been like a visceral body response, and this one freaks me out even more. I was at a location up in the attic, and there's nothing in this attic. There's nothing. It's just a really long stretch of attic. And I'm walking down the attic, and it's a place that I frequent. So it's not somewhere where I feel like I need a flashlight. I don't feel threatened here. I'm not afraid of this place. I walk around without a flashlight all the freaking time. I like it. I don't like my eyes to have to adjust to light, so I don't use flashlights. And I remember going through this space that I've been through many, 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 many times before. And you guys know that like painter's plastic that you would like hang on a wall to make sure that you're not going to get paint all over it or anything like that. And it's that kind of like opaque white plastic. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking, and then I see, I hear, and I feel painter's plastic just like waft a little. It's a big area. It's drafty. So that's not abnormal to hear like wafting painter's plastic. It's a place that's constantly under construction. It's not weird. It's not something. There are 2 other floors that are completely under construction that have painter's plastic everywhere. So it's not weird. But for some reason, my sympathetic nervous system, the part of your body that signals fight or flight, kicks on, and it's like, bitch, you need to run. And I was like, okay. And so I power walked my ass, down the rest of the way. I was like, okay, well, you don't want to look stupid, so we're not going to actually run. We're just going to go really, really fast here. I ended up looking real stupid because my like power walk is literally like, and I get to the end, and I'm like, can somebody give me a flashlight? And I got a flashlight, and I ran back to where I was, and I'm looking around. There's nothing under construction. There's no painter's plastic, no nothing. And while normally that can be something where it's like, oh, it covered up something, the fact that on a deeper level, not only did my brain tell me, painter's plastic, girl, you're good, but it was like, painter's plastic, but you need to fucking run right now. Like that to me is so much more jarring, and then almost starts to dismantle all of the other experiences that I've had, because there's this big thing in the paranormal where it's like, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Like, oh, I'm so cool. And like, if we're not, hate to break it to you guys, internet, if you're never feeling afraid, you're probably not experiencing any paranormal. I'm not going to lie. It's very, very likely that if your nervous system isn't at least triggering, your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response isn't at least like pinging you, very likely you're probably not experiencing anything. And that is because we have gone from like trusting our instincts as humans to wanting our egos to take over, because we want to be cool over exploratory. So this like, I'm not afraid, to me says, I've never really experienced anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where am I? What are we talking about? That was a rant.
It's all good. It's all good. No, I definitely get that, because there's been, and I've done it myself, where I felt very uncomfortable. And, I'm like, I really want to get out of here right now. But I stay because I don't want to look stupid against my peers. No. I've totally done that. I've done that. Oh, my God.
it's okay. Like, it's okay to stay, but it's also like this whole, like, if somebody tells me like, I'm never afraid. And I'm like, would you be afraid? And this is going to be very just, I need to use this example just because of, like, I don't know, the state of the country right now. Would you be afraid if you were somewhere, you're not armed or anything like that, and like an active shooter walked into someplace? We all would be, that's terrifying. So
Yeah.
you do feel fear. You do feel fear. If you feel fear, but you're not feeling anything when you're investigating the paranormal, you might, most of your activity might just be coming from confirmation bias. Because I think so deeply that our body, our brain, and our nervous system is still so tied to the world around us that we are no longer tied to, that we are no longer in tune with, that we need to start listening.
Yeah, we're
to
dampening it down. It's
we're
getting
so
trampled by everything.
our ego, mostly our egos, a lot of ego.
Not me.
Do you think you can start to get used to your fight or flight triggering and in return start to lose out on paranormal? So I do not think that you can get used, if you can still experience fear in some way, if you can honestly say, oh, I wouldn't be afraid if I was in a fucking enclosure with a tiger that was about to eat me. Oh, that wouldn't be afraid. Then you just might have something wrong with your brain. If you can still experience fear, all you have to do is just start to, you can access and feel. I'm answering Paranormal Theory's question that they put in the comments. You can access and you can feel that fight or flight response. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to run out screaming. No, of course not. But there's no, I think you can get used to it, that it doesn't push you to run away. But I don't think, and if you're dampening it that much that you just don't feel it anymore, it's my theory. It's my paranormal theory that you might be ignoring the activity, not your nervous system. You're just not catching any of it. Because honest to goodness, if humans were actually face to face with something truly, possibly not of here, you're not just going to be used to how your body reacts.
Oh no. Oh no.
And that's also, honestly, that is sort of like taming the ego. We all know there's just lots of pressure to have copious amounts of ego in the paranormal, because it's like a survival instinct. And it's like, why? Let's just all admit that, like, we still don't know what the fuck we're doing, and that there's such a superpower in that. Like, let's just all do
or
cool
that we get
stuff
scared. Or that we
let's
get
just all be
scared.
scared. Like, I want to be
People
scared.
don't want to admit that they get scared on investigations, and
Right.
And
it happens. It happens all the
Especially when you're
time.
supposed to be in charge. You know,
You have
gotta
to put on
keep
that front, like, oh yeah,
face
I'm not
yeah.
scared, you know. But
Yeah.
Right.
no, you
and
get scared.
all you're really doing is you're just disassociating from the situation, and you're not going to really get any. You're not going to experience anything that way.
Well,
like,
I'm wondering if meditation,
make paranormal scary again.
I'm wondering if meditation would, like, clear
Pat,
some
I
of
love
that
you
out.
so fucking much. God, Pat. Oh, I love you. Everything that you've been talking about is like a beautiful trigger to all the things that I want to fucking share. Keep going. Tell me, girl. Tell me about meditation right now.
No, what I was thinking is that, like, if you meditate and you allow your brain to quiet and get rid of some of the junk that's in there, and, you know, taking your senses away. So if you can quiet yourself, then maybe you have the ability to be able to dig down and find something, but you got to quiet yourself first.
Pat, please remember, I owe you like a 10-minute long hug. Listen to me right fucking now. That experiment that I have at the Madison Seminary is a meditation chamber that's exploring the connection between our state
Oh,
of mind and meditation state
I had
and
no idea.
experiencing supernatural phenomena. It's literally, it's a chamber that you go into, you sit down, you hear my voice, and sometimes it scares the shit out of people, but it's because it's an automatic. When you walk in, it's a motion sensor and the program starts. It's 17 minutes long. It's like a sort of like a tone and shamanic drumming mixture for 17 minutes. My voice kind of like gives you the gist of like what you're going to be going through. And the idea is that you go up on this third floor of Madison Seminary, which is supposed to be like a very active floor. You walk around, you just sort of like note if you're feeling anything, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. You go into the chamber for 17 minutes and then you walk around again and you just kind of like take in the area and see if your experience changes. And right now it's just sort of like a public on display. You can scan a QR code and you could take a questionnaire after you do it, and that goes into my data set. And then on in April, this is actually the first time I'm saying this date. I did just post it today, but I don't know if anybody noticed it. On April 5th, I'm going to be opening up tickets soon. I am doing Lauren Haunts Madison Seminary, and people will be able to be a part of one of the many control experiment nights there, where it will be it'll be a public ghost hunt, but we'll also have the part of the building where the chamber is, because they're kind of two separate buildings. I'm going to have special tickets where I'll have 5 people come in before everybody else. And we're going to do a controlled version of the chamber experiment so that I can get like face-to-face real-time feedback from 5 different participants. And I'll have multiple of these events over the course of the next like 2 or so years to just get direct interviews and interactions. At MadCon last year when it debuted, I was able to have a few people before MadCon experience the chamber and get some one-on-one interviews with them. At this event, I'll have 5 more participants that will also be a part of like the data set and a part of the research. So yeah, it's very dependent on like not being somebody who's psychic. It's really funny when psychic people go into the chamber because they like fucking trip balls and like see dragons and shit. But like it's so funny. They were like at MadCon, there was like 2 psychics going in at the same time, and they're not doing anything weird. They're both just like, it's like they're itching for like acid. They're like, we got to go in the chamber again. And I'm like, guys, it's just for normies. And they're like, we're going in there. And they're like telling me about like the out of body experiences they're having. I'm like, yes, I know. Like, because like I said, when I said that I studied in India, a lot of travel had to do with a lot of spiritualism study and
Right.
learning about, you know, different ways that human beings practice their spirituality and practice religion and all of these things. And so a lot of that went into sort of putting together the chamber at Madison Seminary. And it was one of those situations where it was like, I wanted to do tests on meditation and I wanted to do tests beyond me, you know, testing it. Because, you know, I've been practicing meditation even like professionally for the better part of 10 some odd years and teaching it to people. And I was a meditation coach for, you know, years, and I was a yoga instructor and on all of these things. So, but I really wanted to start researching and testing, but I didn't have, in order to do something and make sure that you are, you know, aligning with the scientific method, you can't just go to, you know, a private hunt somewhere and you're applying the scientific method to your experiment. That's not how it works. There's so much into it. There has to be, you know, an observation stage. There has to be research and study. You have to be able to form a proper hypothesis based on data and research before all of this. And meditation is something that's been practiced in human history for thousands and thousands of years. So there's plenty of research on the benefits, the medical benefits. There are medical journals that cite talking about meditation, all the way into, you know, paranormal and psychical studies talking about meditation. So there's a lot of research on that in order to form the questions and to form the hypothesis, but I didn't have a space that I could do the experiment, like the observation and experimentation stage, you know, in person, because you have to have one place that stays constant.
Right.
Mhm.
And Rebecca Kirschbaum, who Adam Kimmel owns the Madison Seminary, and Rebecca is his partner, and also, you know, is there as well too. And she randomly calls me up and she's like, I want you to put something in at Madison. And I'm like, okay, like what? And she's like, I don't know, like an art installation or like something kind of like the Devil's Toy Box, which Jeff Fent installed a mirror room, and super, super cool. So awesome. And I love Jeff Fent. He's one of my favorite people in the world. And she was like, you know, kind of something like that where I can just like be there, but it's interactive. And I was like, Becca, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I love her because our brains work so well. I can just like word vomit all over her. And she's like, yes. And so we had a meeting and I was like, it's going to be this and this. And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's incredible. Oh my God. And we filmed it and we put it all together, and it debuted last year at MadCon. And it's just been so, so cool to be able to apply, like to see something that's so like woo woo, paranormal, like spooky, you know, meditation, witchy, all of these things smacked together with like science, method, theory, hypothesis, observation, all of these like variables. And it's, I'm very, very proud of it and very, very excited to be able to like have that opportunity at a space like that. And long story short, Pat, you got to come do the chamber sometime. You got to come do the
Well,
chamber.
I was going to say, you know, it's amazing to me how the opportunity came to you.
Oh yeah.
You weren't like seeking it out. Somebody else.
No, I was like hoping. I was like, I just
Right.
wish,
and,
you know.
and it was an opportune time, and the place was there, and all those things were in alignment to make it a reality. So it'll be really interesting to see the data that comes out of it, because like it seems like it's meant to be.
I think we
it's
all
a road
know.
trip out to Madison Seminary.
Oh,
I haven't been out there in a couple
now
years.
I have to go.
It's road trip.
Darn it.
I'm only like 50 minutes from there. You guys just stay in my house, and we'll all go to Madison, and we'll bother Adam, and it'll be great.
Well, I'm closer than I used to be, but that not a lot. It's only 20 minutes less.
Now,
it's still like 5.5 hours.
I wanted to point out that the show is supposed to be an hour, and we're at an hour and 17 minutes.
I didn't want to say anything.
I didn't want to say anything either. I just kept like, oh, we'll keep going. It's not like the old shows where you had to do that handoff. Remember, me and Pat were just talking about this. You had like 10 seconds to hand the show off to the next one.
I thought something was gonna like just cut us off of it.
Yeah.
No, because it doesn't ask for you have a start time, but it doesn't give you have to manually hit end stream.
I don't do well on those like timed. I'm amazed that I got here on time.
Yeah, here a little early.
You were right on time.
That's just because my friends that I were talking to, they were like, you have to go. And I'm like, okay, just one more thing. They're like, you need to leave. And I'm like, oh.
All right, so before we end this, I just have to ask the one question that I have to ask, and I promised you I would ask.
That's my new device there. I can put it right in my case.
I am gonna show you really
quick. That's what I was gonna ask about, your new toy there.
This. Okay, so we had the seer. So I made the seer. It is an analog static sensor. So it's not like, so a microcontroller, typically things that use like a microcontroller and like microchips and things like that, they're still very susceptible to things like radio waves, two-way radios, and like batteries and things like that can still sort of set off, like my microwave motion sensor. You get close enough, a two-way radio can set this off. This, no, it can't. It's an analog circuit. So it's this was like my sort of like my golden egg when it came to using equipment. So I would set up these 3 pieces, and this was the one that kind of kept everybody in check, because the only thing that sets this off is static charge or static discharge. So when you turn it on, that little power light comes on, and then you ground it out. Okay, there we go. And then when this is a Van de Graaff generator, and when static happens, see how it like blinks? Why? Because I'm touching it, because I'm holding it. You saw it blink once. I ground it out because I touch this thing too much, and then I just become staticky. But so when the static happens and it blinks, there, you can see it from the side.
Yeah, I can see it there.
So then it's telling you that there's static present and static discharge present. So it was a really cool device to use in tandem with like your REM pods and things like that. Because if this goes off and your REM pod goes off, it's very likely that's not a radio wave. That's not a false positive happening. Something is occurring within the space that's telling you, okay, some sort of kinetic energy was happening, some sort of imbalance in electrons, some sort of friction was happening, and the discharge of electromagnetic radiation set off your REM pod. So that could be, that's a really interesting catch. And the biggest feedback I ever got from the seer was like, one, that it was hard to see from all directions, because if it's not facing you, then obviously you can't see the light turn on. Or if you have it sitting like this and you're like sitting down, obviously you can't see adequately when the light turns on. And it doesn't make sound, because a lot of, when you add sound to a device, there's a lot of static that happens in that speaker. So it's very difficult to put sound inside of a static sensor. So much so, correct me if I'm wrong, there are no static sensors on the market that have sound. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. What do you think, Dave?
I'm waiting for Dave to chime in.
No, I'm not aware of any.
I don't think there's any device that detects static that is not susceptible to like radio waves, two-way radios, and like EMF that has sound. Until now, bitches. This is literally why I got a fucking job. So that I didn't have to build equipment to pay my bills, so that I could start. A while ago, Dave gave me something to take apart. And Kathy Paquette gave me something to also look at. These two things did detect static, and I did take them apart. And I did notice that they were mostly, controlled by microcontrollers. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to combine 2 different technologies together, but not allow them to create false positives. And I'm very proud of this. So this is the Seer 3. The windows, when I do sell it, the windows aren't going to be pink and sparkly. That's just for me. But it detects static using an analog circuit, but the trigger and the response does give you, here, we'll just turn it on. So you can, okay, this is my microphone so that you can hear it. So you turn the device on, and when it does, I might actually be staticky enough to set it off. Oh no, okay.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
So the whole thing.
Nice.
That's cool. That is really, really cool.
No static, no nothing. And then even like far away. Okay, maybe not that far away. Because I'm holding it. When I'm not holding it, that's the only bad part. When you're demoing a static piece, you can't really hold it because you're grounding it out. But I don't know if Diane's still here in the comments. She got to see it in action at the Wandle House in Brewster, Ohio. But we had it on a table, and it's so sensitive that when one of my teammates walked by it and they were just like wiping their arm on their jacket, it picked it up. So it has a very wide range of sensitivity that I'm really super proud of. But the response, and the regular devices will be louder, but it'll be more of like a white light, but now it's all 4 directions. You can see it. And
I like it.
which is cool. I want that like 3-tone to sort of be this, what's it called? Like not a trademark, but like I want that 3-tone because also, I mean, if anybody's familiar with, the Nova's tone. So I want that 3-tone to kind of like be my shtick when it comes to my equipment that makes noise. So it's different notes though. So you can tell the difference between the two when you're in a space, but I'll bring these to White Hill so that, well, Dave, I'll probably bring you one because I'm not going to sell them on the Ghost Hunter store.
Blasphemy.
I'm going to give you one. These, you think a crystal pot takes like 5 days to make? These take so much longer because I now make the box from like scratch too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And these ones, the difference too is these ones they're fully rechargeable too.
Cool.
So fully rechargeable. You have the 360 view. You can see it light up no matter where you are. It has the sound now. It's going to be much louder, the final product. And it'll just be scaled down probably about just like a square inch smaller than this. But yeah, the Seer 3. The Seer, and the reason why it's called the Seer 3 is because it's the Seer cubed.
Ah, look at that.
And the new dimensions are 3.33 by 3.33 by 3.33 because I'm still a little witchy.
Roseanne's ordering 20 right now.
I am opening up. Now I do open up small slots on my website for orders. And the next opening will be in February. And if you are on my mailing list that you can get to on my website, you do get first dibs on all ordering spots. And I will say, I ended up not opening up order spots to the public in January because they sold out before I could open them up to the public.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
So what's your website so people know what to go to sign up for that? It's at Lauren Haunts.
LaurenHaunts.com.
Gotcha. Now that's your handle for Facebook and for social media, right? Okay.
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. If you even just put Lauren Haunts in the search bar, I pop up.
Nice.
Awesome. Yep. So everyone go on there. Let's pretend I put myself on that list. And when I see you next, hey, if you want to make those, I like that color. I don't know if I would want white panels on the side. The colors kind of like look cooler.
But the new ones are going to be white with black like smoke.
Ah, okay. A little fancy there.
I'll put sparkles in yours though.
Definitely put sparkle in his.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'll put some sparkles in here. No, but they're going to be cool. And then I'm demoing out some yellow lights that flicker like they're candles too.
Cool.
Yeah. They'll look cool. It's going to end up, the stuff that I put out always ends up looking way cooler than what I built for myself. But so that's why I was like, this time I was like, fuck it. I'm doing pink sparkles on my windows because I'm at least going to have one thing that's pretty. Dang it.
This one's for me.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to like book you to do like 10 more shows. I think that's.
Wait, you said you were going to change up your. Just kidding. It's going to be me, guys, every week. Just kidding.
That's yeah. There you go. We can just sit back.
Oh, me.
It's one question, and we just sit back.
I know. I'm so sorry.
And let it go.
Which we knew was going to happen. So that's great. That's great. No, it was great. Really great. Thank you so much. If anybody's out there
with a podcast, just know. You just need one question. That's it. Maybe 2.
I think I asked 3.
I think you did. You did
3 to ask.
Well, you had some good prompts with just your opinions, so it was great. It was good.
It all worked well.
It was perfect.
This is it. This is the show every week.
This is
That's
it.
all.
It's the show, guys. That's it. I am going to be live on Sunday. I mean, if everybody really enjoyed just hearing me talk for an hour and a half, I'm going to talk for another hour and a half on Sunday.
It's twice a month you do that, right?
I do it bi-weekly. Yeah. So yeah, twice a month. Yep. And this time
Cool.
I'm talking about, I am doing a little bit of everything because it's the first show of 2025. So it'll be, I'm going to talk about why the new moon falling on the new year transition is something to pay attention to. We're going to talk about the new seer, and then we're going to talk about EVPs and like some really cool, maybe, hopefully, maybe some things that people haven't thought about when it comes to capturing like EVPs, and some maybe cool things to add to your next EVP session.
Cool.
Very cool.
Sounds
Very
interesting.
cool. All right, kids. I think we're good for tonight. For the first
I'm gonna
show,
go eat some chili.
That was great.
Yeah.
So,
thanks so much. Thank you, Dave.
So we're gonna do all this thing once a week, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And I don't know. It went very well. I think I'm gonna do it again. I'm not gonna just ghost you next week, Pat. I might actually I might actually show up. Who knows?
Pat,
Who would have
just call
thought?
me if he ghosts you. Just call me. If he
I'll
ghosts
call
you.
Michelle.
I think Michelle was going to think,
Yes!
are you really doing it? Are you going to do it? And I'm like, I don't know. It's because it was your idea. You followed through to do it. I'm like, yeah, don't remind me it. I said, once I get up there, I'm always good. It just,
on the first show of your show.
You even messaged me saying, hey, you want me to take over? And I was like, oh,
you were sick.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
You were sick.
Don't tempt him.
I thought he was sick.
Don't even tell him. Be like, get your shit together. Get on the computer.
He was
now.
sick. Like he was sick. Like he is sick.
I'm not 100%. Yeah,
I was gonna say
that's a given. That is a given.
All right, we should go before it gets any worse.
I know, I'm gonna go eat
whoever this
dinner.
next show is, we're cutting into their time on the feed, so we'll be
oh my god,
yeah.
We are.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, we're running probably simultaneously, but
okay.
everything stays up there so you can see it. So,
okay.
So if someone says tomorrow,
don't ever do that again. That's for sure.
Then I'll say, hey, it's Lauren's fault. I couldn't control her.
I was gonna say, is it get haunted? They know. They're gonna be like, you had to pick Lauren. She doesn't stop talking.
So was it going to cut her off mid-sentence?
I like it.
Well, thank you very much, Lauren.
Yeah,
thank
you. To meet you.
A wonderful conversation.
I look forward to actually seeing you and working with you in the future for sure.
Yes, you will. I'm going to be at White Hill Mansion this year, so
awesome. I'll see you in a few months.
All right, everybody.
Bye, guys.
All right, take care, everybody. Happy New Year.